My name is Colleen Echohawk. I'm an enrolled member of the Pawnee Nation of Oklahoma. I also belong to the Upper Otton Athabascan people of Matassa Lake. I am so glad to be here with you today to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm running for mayor. You know, I moved to Seattle 26 years ago now. I love this city. I chose to be here because I believe in a city that is entrepreneurial, innovative, creative, doing new things, and a compassionate, progressive city. This is a city that has done so many amazing things, and I am honored to be a part of it, to feel connected to all of you and to the work that we are doing collectively. For the past 7 years, I have been the executive director at Chi Seattle Club. Chi Seattle Club is a response to the incredible amounts of Native American people who are experiencing homelessness. In that role, I have changed that organization significantly, going from a smaller budget of around $500,000 to this year, $17 million, and building over $180 million of housing. It has become incredibly important to me that we have Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities who are leading the way around our homeless issues in the city, because we have so many people of color who are experiencing homelessness. Leadership and representation matters, and it makes a difference. You can see it in the work that I did at Chi Seattle Club, creating those new programs and understanding that if there's a problem, you get in there and you get it done. My career has been, that has been the landmark of my career. I'm a hustler. I get in there and I see the issue and I know that we have to get it done and move. And I do that because I care about the community. I care about those children, those elders, those single adults who are experiencing homelessness. It is a humanitarian crisis. Let us be clear about that. It's been over 6 years of this state of emergency around homelessness, and yet our city government has not acted like it's an emergency or responded with great urgency that we should be responding with. We've had council presidents who've had the opportunity to do the work and they haven't done it. That is why I'm running for mayor. I also bring in some other expertise. I am a small business owner. I grew up in small business. And so I understand how the impact of COVID, what the impact of COVID has been on our small businesses. I will prioritize small business in my, as leader of the city if I'm elected mayor. Small businesses in our city have not been given enough support and opportunity. I look forward to changing how our Office of Economic Development does their work, how our Department of Neighborhoods does their work, and getting resources into our small business community. Finally, I just want to say I also have been active in police reform in the city. For the past 4 years, I've been a community police commissioner. I led the last chief of police search. I've had the opportunity to go around the country, understanding what is best practice around police reform. And I can tell you that our police reform is in a very interesting place. We are out of compliance with the consent decree because of the actions of some of my opponents. We have a contract that has hurt our community. We saw it over the summer, and it was terrible. We have to do better. We have to have someone new to negotiate the next contract and make sure that we stop militarized policing, bias policing, and transform the way that we do the work in our city around police reform. You know, we will, under my administration, I will get us to work compliance of the consent decree and get us through that and use that as a platform. That's not the end. Then we transform Seattle Police Department. This has been such a hard thing for our city because we don't believe in that. We believe in our progressive values and want to live those out. So that's the kind of a tenacity that I will bring to this office. I care about people. I believe in leadership that is about relationships and partnerships. I've done that in my entire career. I'll do that as mayor. I would appreciate your consideration of our campaign. Check us out at echohawkforseattle.com.
Thank you so much. That's there's so many interesting things in there I want to follow up on. I'll start with our first question, which is, being mayor comes with executive authority and working with the city council. And I would love to know, what do you plan to do with that authority, with those relationships in the first 100 days?
Well, the most important thing is to take every executive power that I have, every cabinet or every department, every cabinet, everything, and push it towards solving the crisis of homelessness. I have a 22-point plan to bring everyone who's inside, outside in 14 months. It is by far the most concrete plan of any of the other candidates. I have the actual expertise and knowledge and the partnerships to know how to do that. And I will want to work with our council. We are going to have to use some money to do that. And I want to work with the council to understand their perspectives and their ideas. One of the first actions I will take is to try to bring all the council members and myself together and have a meal, and let's discuss like what our priorities are. How are we going to do this work? Set those, I in my small business, I'm a leadership consultant. So we'll set those best practices of how we want to work together, and understand what are the priorities of that council, and how can I, as mayor, help accelerate those goals and get it done. I think that people will find that I referenced it earlier. People have worked with me. They like to work with me. They know that I'm going to be a good partner, and that I'm going to do my part, and I'm also going to lift up the work that they want to get done. That is something that I believe in as being a good human in this world, is that you don't just look at your own goals and what you want to achieve, but you look at what other folks want to achieve and how you can support that. So that's how I will work with the city council. We cannot do what we want to do in the city if we allow this humanitarian crisis to continue. That's why I'm running. And I'm frustrated. Our small businesses are frustrated. Our neighborhoods are frustrated. People in our parks are frustrated and angry. And we have to do something. That's why I'm running. It's the number one issue in Seattle.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's a team effort, and so the first thing in a team effort is how you build your team, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in your LGBTQ town hall last month, and this is sort of coming out of your for addressing homelessness in Seattle, you said that one of the biggest issues in Seattle's approach to homelessness was the lack of resources specifically for LGBTQ youth. And as the executive director of a nonprofit that serves the legal needs of LGBTQ plus communities, I certainly see the impacts of homelessness and poverty on our communities every day. And I'm wondering, one big area of need that we see is how unhoused LGBTQ plus folks are treated by social services providers. And I'm wondering what you will do to ensure that our unhoused LGBTQ plus siblings are safe and affirmed by Seattle social services providers.
Oh, I just have chills all over when you say that. I mean, I and the reason I do is that I have personally worked with especially trans Native youth, and seeing how incredibly difficult their lives are, and how they have been neglected and left behind. Like I could tell you a lot of stories. It actually makes me tear up because they experience some things even within the Native community, like if they try to go home, where they're just completely misunderstood. So for me, to answer your question succinctly, one, we have to ensure that every single contract holder is held accountable to ensuring that they are providing safe space and love to our LGBTQ plus relatives. Now, that's one thing, right? But that's hard to really, you can say it, and then to actually make it, make sure that every individual out there is doing it, because there's hundreds of people doing it, is hard. Right. The bigger thing that I would do is make sure that we are funding LGBTQ plus community led by those communities, and create special programs for those youth so that they can feel that they are with their community. They don't have to hide. They can be themselves. They can, and there's think about this. The reason we have so many of those kids outside sleeping is because they do not want to go into a mainstream shelter and deal with like what the discrimination that they would deal with, because you can't control all the other people that are in there as well. Right. So, right. That is something I have worked. This is work I've worked on the national level with. I worked with the Interagency Council on homelessness from that's the White House's branch of serving the homeless community. I have just. It's a priority for me, and I would make sure that we fund resources for those youth and give them everything we possibly can. They deserve for us to fight for them, and I will fight for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I think that something that you touched on that really rings for me is how important it is to have resources coming out of and from within communities. You know, our communities are smart, right? Our communities are so brilliant. And we also need the resources to be able to serve our community's needs and create those safe spaces where we are part of our own community and where we are taking, you know, our community's needs are front of mind. It's not just sort of another factor rolled into everything else. So I appreciate that, your experience and your thoughts on that and your expertise. One of the other questions I have is, you know, in your service on the Community Police Commission, you've been really engaged in efforts around accountability and safety. And in the executive role, how will you ensure that QD BIPOC, so queer, trans, Black, Indigenous people of color, feel safe in their communities?
Oh, I think it's a way. That is, it's a good reminder for me, like to be thinking more specifically about these specific communities, because a blanketed approach is not the right approach. I know that for sure. I've seen that over and over again. And so my role, the number one thing I could be doing is picking a chief of police that understands these communities. And I can tell you that I don't think in our last round of picking a chief of police that we didn't specifically interview people around that question. And so that would be something I would be very interested in doing next time around, is asking the chief of police candidates, like, how would you specifically support our queer communities, and how will you be more than just an ally, but think about the ways that you can protect them and keep and ensure that, you know, the experience that they're having, that they are kept safe. And that also means not over policing, and not, you know, I think that there are many folks in our communities who are really frightened of our police. And so one of the things that I will change immediately is that right now we have a philosophy in the Seattle Police Department that there's these community-based officers, and there's about 18 of them, I think, right now. I think every single officer in the Seattle Police Department should be community-based officers. Mm-hmm. They need to know that to me is, and in my work that I've done around the country, that is best practice to say to every single officer, no, you don't get to say, oh, the community-based officer will come by later and talk to that person. And every single officer will be committed to our community, committed to making those relationships. We also need to be recruiting right from Seattle. Right now, we have 80% of our officers are not from here. They're not us. They don't live in our neighborhoods. They don't know our community. We have a very diverse community here. They don't know, who knows? Do they know a trans person? I don't know. I don't think so, probably, And so we need to have people that come from our communities, and we're going to have to completely change our way we do our recruitment in the future. So it's a priority for me, the chief of police, and then changing specific policies within Seattle Police Department is the way that I will fiercely protect our queer communities.
Yeah, thank you. I wanted to kind of pivot over towards asking a little bit about business plans. One question that I had is, your platform describes cutting red tape to support small businesses. Yeah. What does that look like?
Well, I think that what I have heard over and over again is that when you want to, get something done, you want to start, maybe you want to, bring your business, your coffee business out on the sidewalk. It can take very long time to actually make that happen, to get all the permitting out there to do it. I want to change those kinds of mechanisms in the city and make it easier and more approachable. One thing I keep hearing over and over again is saying, hey, I call the city and then nothing happens. No one's returning my calls. That hurts. That burns me. I'm like, how does that happen? You run a nonprofit. I run a nonprofit. I would get fired from my board if I did not respond to the needs of my constituents. So I just understand. One of the things that I will do is do some careful, I want to say auditing, but auditing maybe is too strong of a word, but trying to understand what the problem is and hold people accountable to be answering and responding to our communities. I don't know if we're understaffed. I'm not the executive there yet, but the moment that I'm the executive, I will take that opportunity to understand why people are not, getting their calls returned and why things are taking so long. I have led a very successful nonprofit. And part of the reason that I've been able to do that is because of my executive functions of being able to see, what is happening. And so hiring some new people at the city is going to help that a little bit. But there are some systemic issues within city government that I look forward to digging into quite a bit and holding them accountable to respond quickly. I think that Seattle should be the easiest city in the world to do business in. Mm-hmm. These are people, human beings, the lives that we're talking about. And that's how seriously I will take it.
Yeah. Thank you. I think we have time for one more question. And I wanted to ask a question about Seattle's creative economy. Our creative economy has really suffered tremendously during the pandemic. And many folks in that community don't feel that Seattle has invested enough resources in supporting our local creatives, our local artists for a long time. What will you do to ensure that performers, creative entrepreneurs, cultural venues, and other community-focused spaces are able not only to stay anchored in existing communities, but also expand in our city as it becomes increasingly expensive? It's sort of a Venn diagram of hard things.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate the question so much. I want to invite people, first of all, to check out our full platform on culture and arts on our website. The Stranger said it's, the most comprehensive of any other candidate. And it's, I think, I'm really proud of it and really honored to have worked with some really great people to help create that platform. In the platform, you will see a lot about affordability. And let me just back up one step and say that I am an enthusiastic supporter of the arts. I was originally a music major. I go to shows. I just believe so much in, and especially now, we need our artists to just be free to help us heal as a community as we come out of the pandemic. And so it's really exciting to me to have the opportunity to support that. Of course, I was one of the core people at the very beginning of the cultural space movement that we have now in Seattle. So I'll be supporting that wholeheartedly, supporting the idea of a guaranteed basic income for some of our artist community. I think that is a really exciting opportunity and want to make sure that we are supporting our artists, supporting those communities who are going to help us move through this pandemic, who have been helping us. Let's be clear. They've been a big part of the reason we made it through, and then almost through. We're not all the way there. And then affordability. I am your candidate around affordability because I have actual practice in building out affordable housing. And I can tell you, having done over now, I've had $180 million of projects in process. It is very hard, and it is very, the bureaucratic process of it will never get there if we continue the way that we are. The low-income housing tax credit allotments that we build out a lot of affordable housing, not nearly enough So we need to have someone in the mayor's office who is going to be super innovative. We've got to change the way that we build our housing. I think that there are many cultural communities who should be leading the way. I don't know why we don't have like a traditional longhouse style housing out here. We're in Coast Salish territory. We have to just reimagine what our housing systems have looked like. Let's be honest that our housing systems have mostly been built by white men. There are very few Black and Indigenous and other people of color communities who are represented in the fields of architecture and design and planning. So we have to flip that. I'm excited about bringing together communities who have not traditionally been a part of building affordable housing and asking them for their ideas and move forward. We also have a refugee and immigrant community who I think have very amazing ideas about what housing should look like. I think we can build back on some SROs in a way that is exciting and beautiful and dignified, and give people other options for housing. And the way that we think about the funding, I mentioned LIHTC credits already. That has to completely change as well. I am very fortunate to be a board member of the National Low Income Housing Coalition. I've worked on the national level around housing and affordability, and we have a friend in the White House. We have, HUD Secretary Marcia Fudge, who is incredible. I've been on a couple of calls with her and just feel so excited about the way that she's thinking. Seattle is not the only city around the country that has an affordability and housing crisis. And I think that this is the opportunity to do it. Quit talking about it. We've had council presidents who are running for mayor right now who've had the opportunity. They've talked about it, but they have not done the work. I don't think we can continue the way that we have been. Let's hire somebody who has actually been a real change maker and gotten that work done. That's what I'll bring to the mayor's office, and would be so honored to earn each and every one of your votes. Check out our website.
Great. That's all of my questions. Thank you so much for joining me today, Colleen. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It's been so much fun. And I really appreciate the work of the GSBA, and look forward to chatting with all of you guys and all of you all in the future. Take care, everybody.